This is Alex Wathan. I'm talking to you today about auto insurance and bankruptcy. And the first thing you obviously ask is, what does bankruptcy have to do with auto insurance? Well, of course, the good news is that you can save your cars with bankruptcy if you qualify. Most people do. And you can sometimes save a lot of money on your cars in addition to just saving them. The downside of that is that these lenders have the right to so-called adequate protection, and the major part of that, the major part of that, other than some sort of making payments for the depreciation, which I'm not really going to cover that much, but other than the payments for the depreciation, the major effect of adequate protection is that you have to have the cars insured for against losses or potential loss of what the lender sees as their collateral. So how does that work? Well, insurance is the obviously logical thing, and that it obviously includes full coverage, comprehensive, and collision, since those are the ones that protect the actual car more so than your liability for accidents that come from the use of the car. So it's collision, comprehensive. Most lenders require a $500 deductible. Some, like Ford Credit, are okay with a $1,000 deductible. And the loan agreements never say exactly what the deductible or the coverages has to be. So I guess that's what comes down to make the lenders happy. I haven't seen much of fights over exactly what the coverages are, but I think it has to have a reasonable deductible. Full coverage typically means 500, maybe 1,000, and as long as you have that, you have provided the lender with at least the insurance part of adequate protection. Now, the other part of it, payments for depreciation, that's satisfied if you maintain your regular contract payments, or in a Chapter 13, for example, that's satisfied by a direct adequate protection payments sent by the Chapter 13 trustee as part of your plan. And those, of course, count toward the ultimate amount of money you end up paying for the car, such as in a cram down, where you only pay the value of the car, even if that's a lot less than what's owed. When you're upside down, those adequate protection payments that are sent by the trustee before the plan is confirmed, those basically go toward the ultimate amount that's paid for the car. And so it's not something you pay in addition to what you ultimately pay, but it's part of it. And it's more about timing more than anything else. But anyway, I'm here to talk about auto insurance today. And what happens if you don't have it? Well, many lenders may never care and may never check about it. You'll be surprised how many of them don't. But, the moment you think you can get away with not having it is when they're going to check, of course. And if you have a credit union, don't even think about not having full coverage. They will ask, they will check, and they will be a pain in the rear. So credit union, you got to dot the I's and cross the T's with adequate protection with their insurance. And what they want and what you need to provide to your attorney in a bankruptcy is a so-called declarations page for the insurance policy, and that has to have the name of the insured. It has to include your name and the one who's the bankruptcy debtor, or the two if you're a married couple filing together. And it also has to include the coverage dates, like beginning and ending date. It has to include the list of the coverage amounts: collision, comprehensive, liability, and also the liability limits and the comprehensive and collision limits and the deductible amounts. And it also has to have something called the lien holder information, or the loss payee, and that should be the pesky creditor, the Capital One, or the big evil credit union, or masquerading as a nonprofit, hint, hint, hint. But anyway, that needs to be listed, and that's the page you need to fax to your attorney, so that your attorney can give that to the attorneys for the credit union or the other auto lender. And credit unions, they ask the most, okay? And so do that whenever you're in a bankruptcy, whether it's a Chapter 13 or Chapter 7, but especially Chapter 13, where you're often looking to cram down a car. Then they're the most concerned with that, and there are also specific provisions in the bankruptcy code that require us to provide that to them on request, and not just the general adequate protection one, but a specific one for Chapter 13 as well. So those are certainly a concern. In fact, you may have to even provide it automatically, but in any case, that's up to court order, and that varies a little bit. The main thing you got to keep in mind is to keep that coverage going. And if you don't, and the lender finds out that you have not had coverage, well, not only might you be in violation of a judge's order, many judges will order that you, as part of the initial orders in that case, that you were part of another standing court order, that you provide insurance proof. And in fact, some judges, such as in the Southern District of Texas, they order that you not use the car until you have insurance. And so that's a really interesting one. They do that as part of the general Chapter 13 order. So those are certainly very, very important factors to consider, that you may also be violating a court adequate protection order, and not only in Chapter 13s, but also in other cases as well. So that's certainly something that needs to be considered. There may also be other things that these court-ordered adequate protection ones, but if you disregard that aspect for a moment, what do the lenders do? Well, they will file a motion to lift the automatic stay, meaning that your protection from repossession, in this case, or lawsuits, is gone if the judge grants that. So, that's something you don't want to have happen, because even though those motions to lift the automatic stay are almost always worked out with an agreed order, those agreed orders can be a little nasty. They usually have, a couple of opportunities to cure. You can mess up once or twice again. After that, the stay lifts for good, and they can repossess it for good. And if you have a credit union, by golly, they're going to try to get you to mess up. They will sit there and they will call the insurance company to find out if there are any gaps, or they will, they will also, if you're in a Chapter 13, they'll have their law firm check every month to see if you're current on your Chapter 13 payments, and if you're behind, they'll put you in default. So those are important factors that you need to consider to stay on the road. And it's really easy just to maintain auto insurance. And I realize now, when you're about to go into bankruptcy, that that's a lot of money. But shop around for a company that can provide the coverages to you at a lower cost. And some, like Geico and 21st Century, and some of the ones that deal directly with consumers outside of the agents, they can often provide a good value. But of course, many of the ones like American Family and so on, and USAA and others, can provide really good insurance coverage at a good price too. You have Mercury's another one that you can try. So basically, they can provide you with good insurance coverage if you just shop around a little bit and try to get a good quote. In fact, even Allstate can, the one that doesn't like to pay their claims very easily, they can provide you with a good deal if everything is right. So get auto insurance, keep a 6-month policy, because if you keep only a month-to-month policy, you're going to have some gaps. I mean, it's going to happen. I've seen it happen. Almost every person that I've seen with a month-to-month policy. So if you have a month-to-month policy, and especially if you have a credit union, you are dead on arrival. So get a 6-month policy that allows you to make monthly payments or something like that, with cancellation notices, warnings before it cancels, and keep it from canceling. Do a company that allows you to pay online with debit cards, and to make sure you can pay around the clock. So anyway, good luck with maintaining auto insurance so you can maintain your cars throughout your bankruptcy without any problems from the lenders. This is Alex Wathen, and thank you so much for listening.